Here we go. All right, we are live. What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, I'm joined by one of my usual co-hosts, Mr. Kyle Henning. How we doing tonight, Kyle?
Doing good. Ready to talk some Chiefs ball. It's been a long week of a whole bunch of stuff going on. Trade deadline and Monday night with the Bucks and a bunch of other stuff that will not be discussed on this podcast. And
Yeah, it was a very eventful week in America because the Chiefs were 8-0. The Chiefs went 8-0. That was the most eventful thing I think that happened this week that I can recall. I don't know about you, Kyle. That's the main thing I recall happening this week.
keeping the train rolling. And oh, by the way, remember when we kept asking when the media was going to start talking about this team being undefeated, and I said it was probably going to be after they win this game?
It's already up. It's full. It's full.
What was it? 15 minutes after they beat the Bucks that Bleacher Report put that tweet out?
Yeah. They're definitely searching for it. They're definitely finally stoking that fire, as you might say, of the Chiefs' undefeated season. So, yeah, it's continuing. The Chiefs having one of the best starts to a season, which is funny because it's not, but it is almost. It's like this is, I guess, the best start to a season, of course, in the Patrick Mahomes era. He's never been.
Been undefeated this deep into the season.
Yeah, I was about to say the most is what 6-0, 5-0 since that Pat's gone. I think
something like that. Not 8.
So yeah, not 8. So it's funny to say that this is the best start of the season for the Chiefs, record-wise, but statistically and just via the eye test, it's not going. I mean, it's an okay season, but it's just not. It's not one of the great seasons that we might have expected, mostly because of all the injury problems that we've had to deal with and all the different changing of scenery and new faces, old faces coming back.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's been a really wild season so far, and it keeps on getting more wild. Which obviously came to fruition in this Buccaneers Monday Night Football game, which I'll say probably the most stressful game of the season. That's for one big reason and a couple smaller reasons. That big one we'll definitely touch on a little bit in a few, but yeah, it was
the near collective heart attack that everybody had at the same time.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm referring to. Patrick Mahomes injuring or re-injuring his ankle.
Tweaking the ankle, scaring himself. Thusly scaring the entirety of
everybody. Yeah, there's good 5 minutes there where it's like damn near tears in my eyes. Like, oh my God, there's no way this is how it's going to end. And then
there was, oh no, I saw everything from Achilles to he broke his ankle, which we've seen enough of the ankle breaks this year, so I'm okay if we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, those first replays, I was just like, oh my goodness, just watching for the Achilles to pop, watching for
non-contact, not great.
Yeah, exactly. When you see a non-contact thing, you're always like, oh no, like it's never good. But luckily he and via some of the replays you can kind of see is really just he kind of planted his leg, almost just like he fully extended his leg accidentally and almost kind of buckled the knee and twisted the ankle because he had been on the injury report with an ankle injury the past week, and it's just a little minor thing. I think it's I forget what it's his left ankle. It's a different one than he hurt a couple years ago in the Super Bowl. I forget which ankle he hurt.
It's the same one he hurt earlier this year. It's not the same one because it was the right foot, right toe, right ankle, I think, in the Eagles Super Bowl. It was all goofy. It's the one that he injured when a certain left tackle got smoked off the edge and got him rolled up on from behind.
Exactly. So wasn't like the most unsurprising thing that he had an ankle injury once again in this game and re-aggravated it, but just the initial look and him being down and having to get helped off the field with, two guys on his sides, that was just not the best sight to see, but it was reassuring when he got back to the sideline and he just kind of started walking it off again. And then they went to commercial and he came back and he's just walking around, jogging on the sideline. It's like, oh my God, he's not even going to miss a play. This is crazy.
He came out of the tent and was like, hey, Carson. No, buddy, it's okay.
Yeah, you can put your hat back on.
And I thought it was so there was two pieces from Andy that were hilarious. The on the sideline that you hear from NFL mic'd up where he's like, so taking you out, right? And Patrick's like, yeah, come on now. We're not.
Yeah, that was
we ain't doing this.
Much quicker conversation than the last time that happened
which I think Andy knew at that point it wasn't as serious as the other one, and he was just trying to kind of poke and rile.
That might have been, there might have been a little trolling from Andy.
A little bit of Andy troll. So you're sitting, right? No.
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna take you out. Yeah. Nah, I'm just playing. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah.
Patrick's response was, "Come, we ain't doing that.
We ain't doing this again." Yeah.
I'm not giving the NFL the mic'd up segment where I drop 807 F-bombs saying no, which is what happened last time. I'm not.
Actually, funny enough, I saw that clip before the game. That whole
I saw that earlier today. I was not prepared for that.
Yeah, and it was the unfiltered one too, where they don't bleep out all the
no
100. Yeah, exactly.
No bleeps at all. F-bombs galore.
That fired me up when I was watching that clip because it's so awesome. Yeah. So yeah, that was a little bit of a panic in the situation.
The other funny thing Andy did with that was in the press conference afterwards, where he said he thinks he has the loosest ankles in the NFL, which is
that is true. Yeah, that seems to be true.
Hilarious.
Yeah, you tweeted out that his whole body is just Gumby basically, and
yes, man.
It's so beneficial. It's so great the work that Bobby Strope and all them do.
Thank you, Bobby, very much. Think back to the knee Bobby. When he did the quarterback sneak, and everybody was like, ah! And I mean, like, the players on the field were like, his kneecap is on the side of his freaking
the players
leg.
Like, oh my gosh, don't even want to look at it.
He played like 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later, he's already back.
Most guys are out the season when that happens, and instead, that dude's made out of rubber and silly putty, and the ligaments do not ligament like the rest of humans' ligaments do. I will put it like that.
Yeah, definitely a super beneficial factor trait of his. You might say that like I said, he and Bobby and that whole training staff have worked tirelessly to get to. Because like I said, a couple of years ago in the Eagles game, he has a high ankle sprain that like 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, and which normally would take someone out for 6 weeks, maybe longer, and via training and just the craziness of his body, he got back in time. So that was the biggest stress causer of the game for the Chiefs during that Bucks game. Outside of that,
the rest of that, I was like, if they lose,
outside of that, really the overall feel of the game, the points obviously were a lot closer than we initially anticipated and we might have predicted. But it did feel like the Chiefs had a pretty good hold of the game. For the most part, the defense had one of its worst showings of the year so far, which is, I mean, it's saying something because they're so good. So it's like you have a average game per league standards, and that's kind of just one of those things.
I guess it was their worst. Like they gave up 24 points.
Yeah, I mean, still not bad. Still not a bad thing to only give up 24.
Yeah.
The under 28.
Yes, the Bucks were down. Both big-time wide receivers. I get all that.
They were missing a lot of wide receivers.
We also told you it was going to be kind of close like that. Like, we talked about that on when we did the preview. It was like,
right,
they're going to score like 20-ish points, I think. 20 to 21. Like, they got 24, okay?
So, I mean, to the Bucks credit, like, Baker Mayfield, he's a baller,
Baker's been playing insane, like, even without.
He is a really good player, and he's never just going to lay over and bend and kind of take it in a game like that, especially his history with Patrick Mahomes playing games versus him. Obviously, they always like to mention that Texas Tech Oklahoma matchup where they both had like 700 yards and 7 touchdowns.
If you watched that game, why they mention it every time.
It was a great game.
Insane.
It's also a hilarious example of Big 12 football and lack of defense. But
and the fact that Patrick was doing that with. If you go look at the two rosters around those two quarterbacks, there's
Oklahoma's a little bit
drastic difference between Oklahoma's weaponry and Texas Tech's weaponry.
I want to say he was throwing Pat was throwing like Kiki Kute or something like that. It's like some of those guys. So
that would be notorious legend, Houston Texans legend Kiki Kute.
Yep. Yeah. So that like I said, Baker he's a baller and is always gonna is performing, especially in a primetime situation like that. You're
Baker was great.
Yeah, really good. And then obviously they have a really good offensive coordinator over there, Liam Cohen, who's been really respected around the league. And he'll probably be a head coach very soon.
A lot of the right buttons at the right time.
Yeah, especially.
Granted, I don't know that Spags was putting, and we talked about that too. I don't know that Spags was laying everything out on tape and really going after it as much as he might have.
It might have been a situation where you don't play as aggressively and don't necessarily take them as seriously, which, it's kind of one of those things you might fall trap to sometimes if you take a lesser opponent less serious. But it didn't seem like Spags necessarily was coming out and trying to pitch a perfect one. And also to their credit, they did pretty well handling the blitzes and the different pressure packages.
They ran roughly 3,000 screens.
Yeah, that was the big thing. Yeah, they're, like we mentioned, their offense being without their two great receivers and a lot of other weapons. They have to get a little creative with how you draw plays up to guys, and they implemented a lot of screens, a lot of quick short stuff. They had a lot of little Baker had a lot of quick hot routes that he could get off to real quick and stuff like that when pressure was in his face. So to their credit, like, they schemed up about as dang good of a game as you possibly can. And Liam Cohen, I believe, is a Sean McVay disciple.
I think that's right.
Yeah, so Spags historically just has a little more tough times with McVay disciples than others. But, as far as what you can do as a play caller, they did about as good as you can do all the way up until obviously you get to the very end of the game. And then
Todd Bowles made a choice. And I still don't understand why, but he did.
That was the game-losing choice. And we all knew it when it was going to happen. And they still did it.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that part for sure. Yeah,
I want to talk about the conversation surrounding the Bucs and the passing offense and the conversation around this Chiefs cornerback group, because there's been a lot of talk about the corners were bad, and especially Josh Williams. When going back and watching it, he wasn't that bad. And
actually pretty good. Yeah.
There's been some articles and some stuff written by a couple of other friends from the kingdom that went back and watched it and had similar viewpoints on it. And it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, that's one of the nice things about some of the other guys that do some film review and stuff that write some of that stuff out, when you're like, am I insane? And then you go, because obviously you see the instant reactions on the website, social websites, when the game's going on, and there's all that. But if you look through this, if I told you that the leading wide receiver on the team had 4 catches for 48 yards,
pretty good showing. Pretty good
Sterling Shepard, by the way.
You look at it like that,
Trey Palmer had 2 for 33. Okay, one of those was a screenplay. The other one was, I think, a slant route or a little bit of a go ball, and I think somebody fell down because it's raining.
Yeah, that was an unexpected kind of factor that you never can predict, but it was raining pretty hard during the game. I think it was during the middle of the game it slowed down a little bit, but at the end, like that whole fourth quarter and overtime, like it was actually kind of foggy out there because it was so it was just such a heavy rain going on.
And then you look through the rest of it, and Rachaad White 3 for 16, mostly screenplays. Bucky Irving 3 for 10 screenplays. Raheem Jarrett 1 catch, 9 yards.
He had he ran like one little out route.
Sorry, Ken, that did not go as you thought it was going to. Neither it didn't go that way from either. Sean Tucker, 1 catch, 6 yards.
Probably screen.
Ryan Miller, the other tight end that's not named Kate Otten, who actually had, again, a tight end had the most damage to us.
Yep.
Ryan Miller was 1 catch, 1 yard, and a touchdown because it was on the game-tying touchdown.
Yeah, that little goal line one. Yeah.
Trent. I don't know what happened, but I know that was probably supposed to be Trent's guy from that, judging by that play set up.
Yeah.
Kate Otten had 8 for 77. Not great by our defense. Not great from the coverage perspective. Also, not by far not the worst tight end damage that's been done to us this year.
No, and it really didn't feel like it was super effective. I mean, it got him to move the change a couple times, but it didn't seem like it was like a dominating performance from him.
And this goes back to the same conversation when we go to look at the run defense, where it's like, they got 95 yards, but 40 of that was the quarterback and a wide receiver.
Right, yeah. So that kind of skews things.
I guess they gave up more points to the Bengals.
Right.
Bengals scored 25. both that game was a 1-point game. Like that, it was fine. I don't know.
Overall, the corners played pretty okay.
I'm not as concerned about the corner play as everyone else has been and seems to be, partially because Nazi's coming back.
Yeah.
Probably going to come back this week, it looks like, judging by which we'll get into. We'll get into that when we get to the injury report for this week. But I don't know that, and I said this, I don't know that they're going to add anybody at the deadline because they liked what they had in that room all year. Now, they said somebody needs to step up and take that second spot, and they had. Jalen Watson had until he got hurt.
Yeah.
Also, he might be back before the season's over if we take a now deleted tweet at its face value from
classic player tweets,
He responded to our guy Dan Harms over at RGR and said, "Who said I was out all year?"
Yeah.
And then the tweet disappeared. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
It does sound like he's ahead of schedule. If we're going off of that and off of some of the other conversations,
schedule, which is kind of nice. It sounds like there's a couple guys ahead of schedule.
Well, yeah, Hollywood. And I know everybody saw the pictures that Hollywood posted of Rasheed in the pool. I will caution everybody, he's not coming back this year. I don't.
Maybe though.
Rasheed, man, that would be a miracle working. Like, pool work is great for big time knee injuries because it's non-load bearing in a lot of instances. The water provides basically like a stasis. I had a nasty knee injury, not that nasty. I didn't lose both ligaments, but I've had a nasty knee injury. Pool work was recommended. It was part of my rehab. It was also one of the earlier things that I could do. I could do it a lot of the time before I could put like actual walking around stuff on it. Now, could walk, but not normally, is what I should say. The pool you felt a lot more normal in, because of how the water works around the knee in that instance. It basically acts like a brace.
Almost. Or kind of like an air cast almost, but like a water cast.
So
really.
It's not
provides more pressure.
It's a good sign. I love that he's in there and he's already doing that. That's great because that was a nasty knee injury.
Yeah.
And if he is ahead of schedule, that's great, but that still probably doesn't mean he's back before the beginning of next year.
Nah, but maybe though.
Now, Hollywood, Watson with the ankle.
Yeah.
That stuff is totally different, especially if you're to go by Jalen's tweet. So we'll see how that rolls, but I think they're comfortable. We saw Christian Roland Wallace in this game quite a bit in the slot. It seemed like
continue to get some work.
They're gonna keep using Shamari in different roles.
Yeah.
Trent's gonna keep playing outside, and it's gonna come down to Josh and Nazi and maybe whether it's Keith Taylor or whoever on the practice squad.
Nick Jones, who they elevated.
Nick Jones, they elevated.
Taylor. He's kind of more the actual.
I think they actually have him on the roster. Keith. I think they actually have Keith on the roster.
He's actually they actually signed him. Yeah.
Those are and I know everybody wants to freak out, but this is also the same group that Dave Merritt and Steve Spagnuolo have been turning dude after dude after dude into dudes. Like at corner.
You should have, if there's any position to have some trust in the development of, the secondary and corner is a good one to look at with these
Josh
guys.
basically was on scout team for like 2 months and didn't really see a ton of reps. Maybe let him get his feet back underneath him, and he didn't. Like I said, I think from what I looked at, he only gave up 2 catches for 18 yards on 4 targets and was pretty solid. Yeah, I know there were people accusing him of some plays that were definitely not his doing, because he was the closest guy to it. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean it was his fault. That's not how that always works. Especially, do I think he's better in man than zone? Absolutely. Yeah. Because he's not as disciplined. He doesn't stay. Sometimes you'll drift a little one way or the other, a couple feet here, a couple feet there. Yeah. That makes a big difference in zones.
Yeah, but being a more kind of bigger physical corner, the man part is still good to look at. Yeah.
So another thing to consider about that Tampa Bay game is Spags played a lot of zone because they didn't really feel threatened by any of the wide receivers because they're all hurt in Tampa.
Exactly. So, and like I said, like if you look at the big chunk of yardage that the Bucs got, it was mostly on that short underneath stuff. It's not like, and a lot of the reason is because there wasn't anything open over the top, so it's as far as big plays and big 10+ yard gains for like actual wide receiver routes and all that stuff, like the secondary did a pretty good job of shutting that kind of stuff down.
I don't have anything else to add to it. I mean, they handled it. And I know I was a little frustrated with the last drive and the way he called the last drive that led to the Buccaneers tying that game, because it just felt like they were playing prevent defense. And I've said this forever, and I will continue to say it. Prevent defense prevents winning. Luckily, it didn't prevent winning in that instance, because Todd Bowles did what, Garrett?
Todd Bowles making a silly mistake, giving the ball back to, or giving the potential of having the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, kicking the field goal instead of going for 2, which, I mean, at this point, I feel like that's the way to do it. Like, I don't think there's, I don't know. I know Todd Bowles and everyone's saying very conservative, old school play caller, blah, blah, blah. Like, in today's NFL, going against Patrick Mahomes, you just can't do that.
You want to tell me that 75 or 80% of the time you kick the extra point and play for overtime? Fine. You are on the road on Monday night. It's wet. It's rainy. You've had the most momentum and movement, and the offense has looked the best it's looked all night. Right then, you've got a Chiefs defense that's on its heels and looks tired. And your thought process was, no, I'm going to kick the extra point, take my chances with a coin toss, which is 50-50 at best, and then give that defense at least 4 or 5 minutes to rest. Because that whole process takes time, because the Chiefs, oh, by the way, got the ball back with 30 seconds left. Because the bigger problem was they took the timeout when they got the first down at the 1 yard line. Instead of, I don't know, running the clock, just running the play.
I don't know why.
If you want to take the timeout, want to take the timeout after the first down play at the 1 yard line and you don't get in or whatever, fine. But also, how do you not have 2 plays called there if you don't, when you get the first down or not get the first down, because you would have needed it. So it was, the end of that game was terribly managed, frankly, and you cannot expect to win a game like that on the road when you're playing against Mahomes and you give him the ball again. Not once, twice in that scenario.
I saw someone said, basically, the way to describe it is like, if the decision that you make that the other opponent doesn't want you to make, that's usually the right one.
If Andy says thank you after the game, that's probably not the right choice.
If the Chiefs didn't want them to go for 2, that's probably the one that you should do. That's just, and I just hate that decision. Like, ultimately, for like a team perspective, because like you said, you're on the road in Arrowhead against the back-to-back undefeated champs. Like, rainy, horrible game. You just had this big, long, successful drive, and it's like, you don't even give your guys a chance to potentially win the game, So now it's like you're literally, and Baker never got the ball back in his hand again after they do that.
You know who else knew that?
Touched the ball was when they kicked that field goal.
You know who else knew that? Baker. Watch his reaction on the coin toss.
Yeah, that's a pretty legendary photo right there.
And the best part after was Patrick was kind of like, you know what's coming.
He's like,
sorry buddy.
Yeah, he really was like.
I know you were my tour guide at Texas Tech when I was getting recruited there. I know, like, we know each other and we're friends and we talk to each other. You probably should have told your coach not to do that.
Sorry, that was tough.
Look, the other part of this is I also don't know that it would have mattered, because I think they probably just lose in regulation instead.
I mean,
if they go for 2 and get it.
If they go for 2, then we're definitely a lot more aggressive with that last 30 seconds.
The only reason I say that is because he took the timeout when he did on the first down play.
Yeah.
That's where I think what probably happened with Bowles is he probably goes for 2 if they don't burn the timeout and leave Patrick all that time.
I just don't understand why they even called the timeout. Why did they call that timeout?
I don't know, but you had 30 seconds from the 1 yard line. You're getting at least 2 plays off, if not 3.
Right. It's like you really need to recoup and like, all right, guys, get together. We need a 1 yard play. It's like, how is that? That should be an automatic. It's like 2-point conversion. You need 2 yards.
It's like, have 2 plays called when you go to make that.
Especially with that offensive coordinator, like, you have to have a good 2-point play you feel really good about, or a couple at least that you're like, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Because the worst thing, like, you're the underdog. It's like the worst thing that happens is that you lose the game anyways. So it's like you might as well try to go for it and control your own destiny instead of
leaving it up to the coin.
Letting the coin decide your fate. So that was
like
the fatal error.
They know, and Patrick with 4 downs to try to go get a field goal with 30 seconds left. It took 13 against the Bills. It probably would have been done regardless. They would have definitely play called that differently at the end of that fourth quarter when they did what they did.
Had to be on the same page with D-Hop on that last one, yeah.
Well, and that's shout out Josh Briscoe for the Antoine Winfield's been on the field more with Patrick Mahomes than D-Hop has, which is why he almost caught that ball and not D-Hop.
Yeah.
D-Hop will. Oh, we do that? Okay, that'll be fixed. We don't have to worry about that going forward. I'm not remotely concerned about that. And that, I think, is the biggest takeaway from this game for me.
Mm-hmm.
The offense was absolutely humming again.
So good. So much better with D-Hop.
Minus the one Travis oopsie, because I'm fairly certain it was wet and the ball just kind of whooped out the hands.
Yeah.
But,
it was actually a good hit on the DB, too.
It was.
Obviously, slippery ball will happen, but it was a good glancing blow by that.
And so, lost the turnover battle, so on and so forth. Patrick had 300 yards, had 3 touchdowns.
No interceptions, too.
No picks.
No stupid interception.
No crazy bad throws. Yeah. But the story of the game is the addition of DeAndre Hopkins has fundamentally changed this offense. I feel very comfortable in making that statement.
Oh yeah, it's the offense is just we're seeing things that we've never seen before in this offense. That throw where he's basically draped in triple coverage and Pat has to step up into 4 different guys and
First of all,
launches it.
Pat got smoked on that throw.
Yeah.
Helmet in his chest cavity as he's letting that ball go. And he put it in the only place he could put it.
Yeah, that was one of the crazier throws.
That ball was thrown
ever
through a keyhole, and he made it.
Yeah, so that was crazy impressive.
You cannot see D-Hop in that photo. There's several angles. There's like 3 angles of it where you can't even see him.
Yeah,
and he's got the ball. But that's not the part that he changes the offense so much. That part's crazy.
That part was great. Yeah,
you don't see Patrick put up balls like that.
Yeah, he's not throwing that ball if it's anyone else.
You saw it. You didn't see it in Kansas City because
he's not even throwing that type of ball to Travis. He's not even throwing that type of ball to Travis very often.
Travis doesn't go do that. That's not his
thing. Yeah.
Now, Travis wants to box out a smaller guy and make somebody look dumb. Sure.
I mean, he can. Yeah,
Travis into triple coverage with a guy coming across the top. That Antoine Winfield thought he had a pick.
Yeah.
He did not have a pick. But D-Hop changes the whole fundamentals of this offense. They can't play zone now. You cannot play zone against this this offense.
Zone killers right there. It's impossible.
Because if you do zone up and get Travis, now D-Hop's open. And if you zone up and D-Hop's not open, Travis is open. And by the way, if those 2 guys aren't open, Justin Watson knows how to play into zone coverage. And he had a hell of a night against his old team, 3 for 43. It's they've got all of a sudden, this offense and this group of pass catchers has a dynamic that they did not have. Xavier Worthy will figure things out. I'm not worried.
Yep. Yeah.
Sideline awareness, overall awareness, just some little things.
He had a couple there on the sidelines, just a little
middle
tough.
mistakes, rookie mistakes. Yeah. It hurt me because that killed a couple of quite large parlays that
would have been one parlay basically right there.
Cashed out real nice.
That would have been one big one right there.
But he'll be okay, and I thought it was really important about what he discussed in the press conference where he's basically trying to absorb as much information as he can from D-Hop without annoying him. Not annoying annoying D-Hop seems like it's going to be pretty hard to do because
I must say I don't
everything
think you'd be like, yes, talk to me more. Yeah,
that's why I say that. I think it's important because D-Hop has been notorious and has been reported multiple times, multiple ways about wanting to be helpful and
even Justin Reed, when he first came on the team, he's like, this guy is going to literally help so much. He's going to help everybody in the building with the way that he
So if Xavier's mindset is to get as much out of him as he can without being annoying, that means he's basically going to be his shadow for the next however many weeks. And that's really good for his future.
And that's the thing also that, just touching on Xavier Worthy, I think people are very overreactive so far of how his rookie season has been going. And we have to just remember that he was never supposed to get this much attention and this much of a role in his rookie year. Like he was supposed to be wide receiver 3 at best and have a slow ramp up period. And now he's been thrust into much bigger situations where he's one of the more experienced guys as far as knowing this offense so far. So
he's got 19 catches for 235 yards and 3 touchdowns in the air.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
a solid start to a rookie year.
And I would say like anyone can tell you that he's showing many traits and attributes and
he's also got 2 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, he has 5 total touchdowns on the season.
Yeah. And also I think just the way that we've heard him talk and some of the things that we've learned about his character and all that stuff, I feel like he's only going up. There's
a maturity level. There's an understanding. It's not, I don't want to name names of other organizations' players, but you guys can look around the league and see some young guys that have some, or even some not so young guys anymore that have some maturity issues. Yeah. Rather glad we traded for the wide receiver we did and not the one that went a little bit later that went from Carolina somewhere else.
Yep, I'm happy with D-Hop. Yeah, I'm definitely happy with D-Hop. And D-Hop seems pretty happy here. He might be staying around for the long term.
And the biggest thing that D-Hop, well, we'll get to that because I know I sent that tweet that was of his TikTok. So he also changes the red zone and third down portion of this offense in a way that they couldn't have added a better piece for.
Yeah.
Don't believe me? Watch the 2 touchdowns again from this week.
They're pretty good.
You can't stop that.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want you to.
Yeah,
especially if you set up.
Yeah, it's like you're not stopping D-Hop on a quick slant.
And he spent the last 11 years killing people to the corner on a fade route, and now he's going to oh, nope, just kidding. I'm going on the slant. See ya.
Yeah.
And I think the funniest part was Turk both times was like, nope, this one's D-Hop's touchdown. Nope, this one's D-Hop's touchdown. And so when you can alter the third down defense or offense, which they're the best team in the league on third down, and it's not close.
Not close, yeah.
And they went from basically at the bottom of the barrel in the red zone to like 12th or 13th in the red zone after this game.
Climbing that ladder again.
It's a huge change, and his versatility, it frees up Travis across the entire field.
Yeah, I mean,
but
Travis
it really opens
game,
up
just because of that main reason. 14
it really
for
opens up
yards,
the third down in the red zone. So this is the stat I was talking to you about that I wanted to get. Okay. This is per Next Gen Stats. Robert Mays put this out yesterday. Patrick Mahomes has a 58.6% success rate on 3rd and 3+ this year. The league average is 38%. That's 20% higher than the league average.
That's pretty ridiculous.
The next closest full-time starter, 48%. That's 10% difference on third down. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that was Baker.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, yeah.
He's generated 40.1 EPA on those plays. Nobody else in the league has more than 15.4 EPA on those plays.
And that's just what we talk about.
35 estimated points added. 35 points difference.
And that's the big
on
thing.
Third down and 3 or more.
And Patrick Mahomes, it's like, it might not look pretty, but this is a big reason why they're still 8-0. It's like when you need it to happen, when you need to get third down, when you need to get a drive going, they're gonna do it. Like they're gonna find a way to do it, and that's why they're converting so much. Their differentials are through the roof. Like they're winning like the basics of football. It might not be all flashy and all these crazy stats and numbers, but like the basics of moving the chains and getting to the end zone, like
they're the best situational football team in the league, and it's not close. According to, I did a little more digging into that tweet, some of the replies. I think Nick Wright got a hold of this, and I thought I heard him say this. That's the second best. Those stats I just read you, that's the second best ever.
Okay.
2011, Drew Brees was the other guy.
That's pretty good. I want to say 2011 was a good year for him.
Yeah. So that's just 3rd and 3+. That does not include what Kareem Hunt and the rest of that running back room and everybody has done on 3rd and short. 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2.
Yeah.
3rd and 2.
Has been a dog. Jeez.
Kareem Hunt has now 4 consecutive games of 20-plus carries in a Chiefs uniform. I'd have to guess Jamal Charles was the last running back to do that.
Probably, yeah. I don't even think Jamal was doing it very frequently like that. You know?
I'd have to look, but I would have to guess that Jamal Charles was the last running back to go 4 or more games with 25 or more, 20 or I think 20 or more carries.
Almost guarantee.
I don't know who else it could be.
Well, actually, now that you think about it, the only other one I could think about would be that guy in 2017. Who's that guy? Oh yeah, also
would have been Kareem Hunt, which would.
Also Kareem Hunt, right?
So before Kareem, it has to be Jamal Charles, and it had to have been roughly a decade ago.
Yeah, maybe Larry Johnson before him. Who knows?
before Jamal, but Jamal definitely had multiple games with 25.
Probably, but it's this isn't something that very frequently happens with Chiefs.
It's not an Andy Reid thing usually. That's for sure.
No.
And so, and the more telling part is he has seemed to have gotten better and better as the game gets later and later, which is something that everybody heaps tons of praise on Derrick Henry for all the time.
Yeah. That's
and we're seeing that happen with Kareem right now. And you can tell because every time we get to the fourth quarter and he starts running dudes over and he's getting up off the ground when he's laying there.
That last drive where they just handed it off to him 7 straight times.
Patrick said, hand it to him again.
Yep. They say, give it to him again. And every play was positive. And it's he was his body control is so fun to watch because you know what? He can get tackled at the line of scrimmage and he'll just twist forward for 3-4 yards still. He
always falls forward.
Yeah. He's so good at that. He's so good at he can just contort his body and get into the little holes and all these things to sneak a few more yards. It's really it's demoralizing football. If you think about it from the Bucs perspective or any other team, I couldn't imagine going against this guy. It feels like you got to beat on him and then nope, you still got 6 yards off that. Oh, and then he got another 2 and then boom, first down. And then they're going to do it again and they do it again and they do it again.
So,
and sure Vita Vea was having a tough time catching his breath after that last drive. Yeah.
They ran the same exact play 12 times.
Mm-hmm.
And they ran every single one of them right at Vita Vea.
Right at him, yeah.
As impressive as Travis's 14 for 100 was, it wasn't the most impressive thing he did all night.
Yeah.
Go watch the power run plays. He's sealing inside massive holes against linemen and linebackers, getting 1, maybe 2, sometimes 3 guys on different blocks on the same play. This is the same Travis Kelce they tell us all the time can't block, for those keeping track at home.
Yep.
He was destroying people interior of that Bucs defense.
Really good.
They lined up in the second half and said, you can't stop this. And until you do, we're going to hit the button over and over and over.
Yep.
They ran basically 3 plays. Probably, I bet 22 of the 25 carries or 27 carries were 3 plays.
Probably.
Power left, power right, duo. They ran them over straight up the middle into the teeth of that Buccaneers defense.
Yeah, they did. That was a really impressive thing on the night for them. That was
if they can do that to legitimate. Vita Vea is a monster of a player and a defensive lineman. Dude was wrecking shop in portions of this game.
Yeah, I'm about to say he had 2 sacks on the game. So that's
part of the reason they had some issues in the first half.
Yeah.
And they went in and were like, nope, we're just going to hand you your butt. And they did routinely over and over again. And second level, third level, getting 6, 7, 8, 9 yards on the ground at different points in that second half.
Yeah.
When you can wear a team out and just wear them out over and over again, short passes, long drives, consistently going forward on the run. By the time that third and fourth quarter hit,
you're toast, and especially
no chance, man.
And then going to overtime, and that once again goes back to the whole overtime, choosing to go to overtime. It's your team has just gotten absolutely run through and gassed for the past 2 quarters. Come on, you gotta have some. He might sit on it. They might get a little bit of recovery time, but it's they are not. like they're on the ropes right now. You can't just let them go back out there and face Patrick Mahomes in overtime. Now it's like, what are you doing? You know?
And to that point, what Andy does in the offseason and what they do in camp.
Yeah, them
long drive drills. Those long they don't waste a second of training camp practice. If you guys have been to training camp, you know this. They all stretch before practice starts. I swear to God. They all nobody is down there. Once they get out there, it's go time. It's go time from the second they get down there till the second it ends.
That whole 2-hour period or whatever it is, it's loaded.
And they're one of the only teams in the league. I remember listening to Matt Verderame talk about this to, I think, Tucker a couple weeks ago on KCSN. He's like, man, I go to some of these camps and some of these practices, and they stretch for 45 minutes, and then they'll do some drill, like individual drill for like 30 minutes, and then there's water break and more stretch. Not the Chiefs.
Chiefs just go out there, boom.
And he's like, man, I used to have 2-a-days and no time limits. I'm used to being able to work way more stuff. We got stuff to do. We got things to get through. But the conditioning level that breeds and that creates, because you watch teams get gassed. How are the Chiefs so good in the third and fourth quarter, late in the third and all the way through the fourth quarter? Because they have more in the tank than anybody else does.
It's preparation, you know. That's the type of championship stuff that makes the difference, you know. That really is. So
situational football makes a huge difference, and part of the situational football aspect is they're in shape and condition to do it.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, that's just the little things that people really don't think about that just really make a winning culture what it is stuff like that. And it's so good to see that come into effect in live game situations like that. You know, it's like there's just a clear difference of a championship mentality and a mindset and not. So really good drive and really good just overall performance from the Chiefs. Also, you know, we mentioned the sacks. Patrick Mahomes got sacked 4 times. The last time that happened was the Raiders game, I believe, last year on Christmas that we lost.
Yep.
So good to conquer that demon of getting 4 sacks, and we still got the dub. So that's good to see.
Would really like him to stop getting sacked so damn often. But I think part of it is he's trying to hang out in the pocket a little more and stay home a little more.
Yeah, he's trying to
have made a conscious effort at that. Instead of escaping left or right, he seems to be moving and sliding up into the pocket more. That's fine, and that's great to work on that now. When it matters, let's do what we know works.
Let's maybe unleash the beast a little bit.
And also, I know that PFF decided that this was the game they were going to give somebody credit. He's still struggling. And he had a better game because he's not playing against Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby.
Right.
But the left tackle position is still a problem right now.
Still just not ideal. Yeah. I mean, that's
I
a huge
really
reason.
hope there's more that develops and more that comes out of this, and he continues to get a little bit better. But
we can only hope it. We can only hope as the season progresses that he keeps on getting better. But I mean, that's part of the reason why Pat isn't going outside the pocket as much, I think, is because that left side, he just really doesn't have a lot of trust in it being nice and sealed and contained over there a lot of times.
And they had some trouble in the middle. Vita Vea had caused problems.
Yeah, I mean,
think some of that
and Kalijah Cansey also had 2 sacks, another defensive tackle for him. So, I mean, that'll happen.
I think some of that has to do a little bit still with Joe still kind of getting his legs and wings back. Pectoral muscles for offensive linemen. We've said this before. Really bad. Like, that's not good. Yeah. Hard to come back from and be perfect at. Yes, we've called him a robot for most of his career because he operates like one.
Right, but you have a big injury like that.
And things like that can wear down, especially when it's a core issue, a core muscle like that.
Yeah, and it just happened in the AFC Championship game. So
he's
it's like
still getting, he's not even a year full removed from that yet. So there's going to be some of that. There's going to be some growing pains. And also, sometimes, we talk about this too, the other guys get paid too.
I'm about to say Vita Vea, he is still a freak. Like that is.
Yeah, if you're gonna get beat by somebody inside, Vita Vea is a good guy.
One of his sacks was he literally just blew through both Creed and Trey like they were
there.
Yeah. So I mean, credit to him because he is a dog. But
they get paid too, man. It is.
And ultimately they figured him out. And like I said, that second half and that fourth quarter, it was much better. So
I think it's a staple, and it's really kind of who this team is. They let the offensive linemen dictate instead of being dictated to by the defensive linemen. When they went on attack mode and started just hammering Kareem down their throat, it changed the whole tenor of the game. Wanye's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker.
Yeah.
Creed, Trey, and Joe love imposing their will on.
Yeah, that is their main strength. We talk about them a lot as being the best interior 3 in the league, and their main strength is that run game and that interior running and
when
just
they get
mauling guys,
just mug dudes and get to really dictate to them what is what and how it's gonna go. They start to take advantage, even when you're some of the best defensive players and interior defensive linemen in the league. Vita Vea is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. Doesn't get the recognition that Chris Jones is now starting to get and that some of the other guys have gotten through the past. But he's very, very good.
It really takes D tackles a long time to get that recognition. The edge rushers get them very immediately. We see all these young star edge rushers, but there's a lot of defensive tackles in the league that it takes a while for them to really get nationally appreciated. Jeffrey Simmons. I mean, Dexter Lawrence is just now getting it this year because he's having a big year, but he's been good for a long time. Like
DeForest Buckner was really good and didn't get credit until he kind of started to fall off, which is crazy.
He was like one of the main factors in that Niners Super Bowl team in 2019, and he still didn't even get the love of.
They let him go to Indy instead.
They trade him for not much, I think. I mean, maybe at first, but
it was wild.
For DeForest Buckner, it's really good. So. Shout out to the Bucs. They played a really good game.
Hard fought game, especially Baker in that defense because they fought their ass off in that game.
Yeah, and so definitely the closest matchup that the Chiefs have had so far, and probably the biggest test, which is kind of surprising to say, but it's just the Bucs are a playoff team, and they are stylistically they are an interesting matchup for the Chiefs. I think style really plays a big factor into a lot of matchups. That's I think part of the reason that. Chiefs fans were more happy to see the Ravens in the AFC Championship last year than the Bills or the Bengals, because it's the Ravens are a great team, but just stylistically they don't match up as well against the Chiefs. And that was one of the situations on Monday night where the Bucs just they matched up decently well to us, and they had a good showing, but didn't matter because when the game needed the most, Patrick Mahomes and Kareem Hunt in that offense got them right down the field and made it happen on a walk-in touchdown. So. That
marched.
Was
overtime was just a walk. They just walked down the field on them. I was like, well, that's unfortunate for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's just as soon as you get that coin toss, all right, we're good. We got it. We're all good. We're gonna be okay. That was the Bucs game in short.
In short.
Good
short. 47 minutes.
47 minutes. So we'll transition over now. To the Chiefs' upcoming matchup this weekend. Since we haven't got an episode out for you guys this week, we combine them both into this episode, preview a little bit of the Broncos coming into Arrowhead, 11 or 12
noon kick
game. Yeah. So just
we never play noon games anymore.
One of the few, maybe one of two. I think that way. I think the only other one we're playing is on Black Friday is a noon game. So.
It's definitely one of the only ones on Sunday that's a noon game.
Yeah. So should be interesting. Good matchup. Obviously, division rival. The Broncos aren't having the greatest of years. I don't think they have a young Bo Nix in at quarterback for him. Who
young's a stretch.
Well, yeah, an old rookie Bo Nix who's been around for a very long time and just finally got drafted.
Working on 25, I think, this year.
Yeah. So he's been having a year. He has been having a rookie year with Sean Payton and that team over there.
We have the Panthers at noon on a Sunday, and we have the Browns at noon on a Sunday. That's the only two other remaining noon games on Sundays, and that's both because both of those teams are.
Yeah, and this team that we're going against right now is kind of in that same category.
So they're 5-4, and they got absolutely murdered by the Ravens this last weekend. 41-10.
Yeah, they got a pretty.
And I don't even think 41-10 tells the full story. It wasn't that close. They got blasted.
Yeah, they couldn't stop a fly in that game.
No. And that's kind of what I want to start with if we're going to talk about this game, because there's been a ton of talk about how good this Broncos defense is. And in years past, they've had a great defense.
Yeah.
They also had Justin Simmons on that roster. They also had some other guys on this roster. They just traded a defensive lineman away, which was kind of strange. Baron Browning is no longer a Bronco.
Yeah, they did. And they gave an extension to another one of their edge rushers. Yeah.
So I know Baron Browning had started to lose some snaps to some of their guys, and that's kind of probably why they did it. But this is a Broncos team that I'm going to read you the teams that they've played, and then we can figure out maybe if, because to me, I'm curious to see if this defense is inflated because they've played some lesser competition, and then when they've played some real offenses, they've had some more struggles. Now, they gave up 20-6 to the Seahawks in their opener and lost. That is the Geno Smith-led Seattle Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
They gave up 13 to the Steelers and lost 13-6 because their offense could do nothing against that Steelers defense.
Yeah.
They beat the Buccaneers 26-7 in September. They shut down a very good Bucs offense, as we just saw. That's a very good Bucs team, even without their weapons.
Yeah.
Then they beat the Jets 10-9, which
10-9, Jesus Christ!
Yay! That was the game Bo Nix had -8 yards at halftime.
I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that game. Yeah.
They gave up 18 to the Raiders, and let me see which quarterback that was. Checks notes. Gardner Minshew.
Not great.
Now, it was 34-10 until like 4 minutes to go in the fourth when they gave up the another 8 points. But you still gave up 18 to the Raiders and Gardner Minshew. And a lot of the points you got were off them giving you the ball, Gardner Minshew.
Right.
He had 2 picks in that game. Then they lost to the Chargers and gave up 23 to a Chargers team that hadn't scored on anybody all season, really, because Jim Harbaugh wasn't letting Justin Herbert play quarterback for the first half of the season.
You're right. Yeah.
They beat a terrible Saints team who is so hurt and so injured and so bad that there's nothing left. We'll talk about nothing left here in a minute when we get done with the preview, when we talk about the trade deadline. And then they beat up the Panthers 28-14, which, again, you gave up 14 points to the Panthers. We'll see what the Chiefs do, but Bryce Young had 2 touchdowns and 224 yards.
Yeah, he actually looked kind of serviceable, which is crazy.
With Jalen Coker as his #1 wide receiver in that game. So then they got absolutely nuked by the Ravens, 41-10, and it was 24-10 at half, and it was 38-10 at the end of the third quarter.
It just kept going. Yeah, it just not getting any better for him, huh? Wow.
They gave up 106 yards and 2 touchdowns to Derrick Henry on 23 carries. They gave up 280 yards and 3 touchdowns to Lamar Jackson on 16 of 19 passing.
Wow.
Lamar had 3 incompletions?
Yeah.
Lamar's great. That's not usually his game.
19 attempts period and get that many yards. Yeah,
they gave up 127 yards to Zay Flowers and 2 touchdowns on 5 catches.
Yeah, so not the greatest performance from the Broncos coming off their last game. I just don't know
how solid this defense is or how good it is because they played a bunch of bums.
Yeah, when you look at a lot of their guys, like Pat Surtain obviously is still good, but
he's
outside
great.
of him,
who else?
There's not a whole lot of other names. Funny enough, they have they have Devon Key starting as their free safety.
Yeah, I do. That would be, for those of you guys who don't remember, he was on the Chiefs as an undrafted free agent at one point.
Yeah, a little bit of a training camp darling, and then
they cut him
in a couple games.
We cut him, and they picked him up, and he's played for him. So
yeah, they also have old friend Tremont Smith, who
they do
is now listed again as cornerback, not running back anymore. But yeah, outside of Pat Surtain, there's not a lot of other big names on that defense that really instill fear into you. They've
got a bunch of guys that they run a rotation with at the D line. There's a bunch of just
they just
a bunch of named guys.
Jonathan Cooper was the one who they extended linebacker.
And they've actually been fairly solid getting pressure this year with that defensive line group. The problem is
John Franklin Myers is okay. Zach Allen.
I go back to,
okay.
Are you getting pressure because you guys are good at getting pressure, or are you getting pressure because some of these teams have me and you playing offensive line for them?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the big thing when you look at those matchups. It's just doesn't instill a lot of fear into me
Also,
personally. No, yeah.
They're already resting Zach Allen as like during their injury report. Like he got a rest day on Wednesday.
Oh, really?
Now he's not injured, but
yeah,
he's only been in the league 6 years. He's 27, and we're doing rest days for your defense. I mean, I guess whatever you guys got to do, Sean Payton, but that just seems odd. We know that they're going to be missing Turner Yell, who's one of their safeties, and they're missing Drew Sanders. They're both already listed as out on the injury report.
Yeah.
They've got, I don't even know, is he their starting center?
Wattenberg is no, he's not.
So I guess the defense is going to be fine.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not sold on the fact that defense is good for any other reason than they've not played much else.
Yeah, it's just,
And isn't Vance Joseph their specialty, or isn't he their defensive?
I was just about to look up who their.
I'm pretty sure it's Vance Joseph.
I think it might be, yeah. Which
it is. It is Vance Joseph.
A lot of familiarity with Andy.
Yeah, he was the head coach in Denver, and Andy whooped his ass.
It's really weird that he went back as the D coordinator after that. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, remember they sold the team, and there's a whole new regime there, so that's not exactly the same.
Yeah, you're right. They did sell the team. Yeah.
No more John Elway. No more any of the other people that were in.
Well, that's the reason why they're having even a little bit of success now. It's no more John Elway, but
well, yeah, that's a separate subject. But I know that it's been a large conversation about the Broncos defense this and the Broncos defense that. And the Chiefs offense has been moving on a trajectory upwards, especially the last couple of weeks. We talked about it with DeAndre Hopkins earlier. And the Denver defense has appeared to be going somewhat in the other direction. And I just don't know that that's a good combo for this.
Exactly. It seems like they might have peaked early, and now they're kind of fallen on that fall and that downfall. So
because the other part of their greatness is great. You got Pat Surtain. You're gonna put him on who? Are you gonna drop him on D-Hop? Okay.
I guess.
That's fine.
If you want
That'll be a fun 1v1 battle. That'll be fun. Here's the problem. Who's covering Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy?
Yeah, that's the bigger.
You're gonna run Riley Moss out there at Xavier?
Yeah, the old white cornerback. All right, let's see it.
I hope you're not planning on using Jaquan McMillan on Travis, because that ain't gonna go well.
that would not be very.
No offense to Jaquan, but that is not.
I mean, no offense to Jaquan. He's 5'10", 183.
Like I said, that ain't gonna go.
He might even have a hard time muscling around Xavier Worthy, nonetheless. Travis Kelce. Come on.
Like, that's a styles make fights, and that's a fight that's a problem for you kind of deal.
Yeah.
I don't
know who they're gonna employ. Maybe Brandon Jones, I guess, their safety, but
I don't know what this defense is going to do to stop what this Chiefs team has shown that they're good at. And if you blitz Patrick with D-Hop and Travis, Vance, I wish you the best, buddy.
Vance, buddy. Hopefully you learn from your mistakes and you won't do that, but he might. There's a good chance, actually, I think.
Buddy, if that's your strategy for this game, it's going to be a long afternoon.
Yeah,
and I mean, noon.
I don't see them getting a lot of pressure with just 4, so I don't know. Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting matchup to see how. I feel like it'll more so come down to how aggressive the Chiefs want to be versus this defense and how much they really want to test them. Because it doesn't instill a lot of fear into me. This Broncos defense.
So they've got Jonathan Cooper has 5.5 sacks. Zach Allen has 4, and everything else is kind of like 1, 3, 1. I guess. Let me take that back. Nick Bonito has 6. Guess what position he plays?
He's a linebacker, right?
Because they blitz a lot.
Yeah.
And then John Franklin Myers has 4. So
yeah,
a lot of it seems to be like their leading sack getter is the blitzing linebacker.
Right. Yeah. That's saying something.
I don't know if that's the strategy and the method you want to run out there against a guy who has eviscerated the blitz since his rookie year.
Exactly. Yeah, that doesn't seem like it'd be a great recipe for success.
Also, interceptions on the year, 3 for Pat Surtain, 1 for a bunch of other random dudes. And is Alex Singleton even playing on this team still?
I think he's on IR. Yeah, he's on IR. He had an ACL.
Okay, so that's not good because Alex Singleton's one of their better players, and
he was
linebacker, and he's out.
He's been out, yeah.
So
that's a big loss.
I don't know, man. I've tried to be. I went into this preview like I went looking for things that the Broncos could do.
Yeah, what could they possibly do? And the answer
is don't do the things that they've done earlier in the season and shoot themselves in the foot on offense. They should be pretty much able to score at will on this team.
Yeah, this seems like a game where the Chiefs can kind of take it wherever they want to. If they were to want to be aggressive and put up a lot, I think they can. It also just might be a game where they're just like, let's just run cream a lot and have a couple big plays to D-Hop and Kelsey and just float to a comfortable little like 20, 24 points and a win, something like that. Might not be like a super big flashy show, but you also don't need to when you're playing the offense like this. Cause you flip over to the Broncos offense.
You want to shit all over their Broncos offense like I just did their defense? Is that where we're headed?
Yeah, because that's just Bo Nix, man. I don't think he's it. Like Bo Nix, he is not.
He's mature.
Yeah,
he's mature. He's a decision maker. He's a 24-year-old rookie who, great.
Yeah, exactly. He's about to be 25 too. Yeah, I mean he's already has 6 interceptions on the year, so that's great. A lot of his production really has come actually on the ground. He has 4 rushing touchdowns for 295 yards. Like that's been a big thing.
He's an underrated runner. He's an underrated runner.
I mean, good athlete. You know why? It's also
I'll give you one guess.
Why is that?
Hard worker,
lunch pail guy.
Lunch pail. Bring first in, last out.
Coach's son. Yeah, that sounds about right. Really, my MO for Bo Nix is that he's not ready for the NFL yet. I think that's very clear in most of the games that you look at him. Sean Payton has done an okay job kind of bandaging that and patching it together. Honestly, if there's anyone that could get some success out of Bo Nix eventually, I could see it being Sean Payton, but I just don't think he's quite ready for the game action yet. A lot of, like we said, this production is kind of plays breaking down, him scrambling around, him using his legs to get some first downs and some touchdowns. And he is an athletic guy, and they have been using. Last week, I believe they ran the Philly special and got him a touchdown. That was like one of their few points in that game.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, so it's kind of saying something when you're that desperate that your red zone offense needs little things like that. But I just don't think Steve Spagnuolo. I think Steve Spagnuolo might have a good day versus Bo Nix. I think he's gonna send a lot of pressures that he ain't seen in whatever college he was at. He ain't seen this. Auburn, Oregon, wherever else he was at, he ain't never seen the type of things that Steve Spagnuolo is gonna send on him on Sunday.
The Pac-12 doesn't play defense like Spags does.
No. Yeah, no.
They don't play defense at all anymore because there's only like 2 teams in it. But
they don't play really anymore, if anything. But I think this is going to be a matchup that's more heavily dominated by the Chiefs' defense. I think they'll be once again the guys who dictate the game. They still have Cortland Sutton there, so that's he is good. He'll probably be their main production on the day.
Old friend alert at fullback.
Yep, they do have old
Michael Burton is a fullback.
Mike Burton, who is their fullback. Javonte Williams, their running back. He was good. He hasn't really. I feel like he hasn't.
Yeah, tell my fantasy team about how he was good last year and not this year, please.
Yeah, it seems like he's kind of been on the decline a little bit.
I honestly think they would have a better shot if they would give Audric Estime some more touches.
Yeah, I'm about to say that is a guy that listed as a third stringer on them, so obviously he hasn't a very big role for him, which is probably silly.
It's because Sean Payton threw him in the doghouse. He fumbled like his first freaking play, and then he just sat for like 6 weeks, and then they let him carry it again, and then he fumbled again. Problem is, when you don't let running backs run the ball, they get rusty and bad things happen. So he's a rookie for one, and two. Now Jaleel McLaughlin is a scat. He reminds me a lot of like Jerick McKinnon.
That was the exact comparison I was gonna say. Yeah,
not as good. Jerick McKinnon doesn't pick up the blitz as well. Doesn't do the
receiving game as well, but is at least in that style or mold of a player.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit smaller, 5'7", 187 guy. So you have
the biggest problem for this team is, other than Cortland Sutton,
not
Marvin Mims, Lil Jordan Humphrey,
yeah.
Troy Franklin,
the rookie,
which was his teammate, was Bo Nix's teammate at Oregon.
Right, yeah.
Has kind of been they expected more out of him and haven't really gotten it. There was some conversation about him kind of doing that whole come in, be a rookie, that utility guy, does the end rounds and the screen game and
a lot of production off that
and then go deep because he's really fast, and like that's fine. But they've gotten nothing out of that. I remember Marvin Mims was a hot topic when it was draft time around for everybody that was looking at wide receivers. He's not been great. Their biggest problem, though, is going to be who's blocking Chris Jones and Josh Uche on pass downs.
Yeah, their interior. I mean, their whole offensive line, really, it's not like it's super great. They still have Quinn Miners.
I like Quinn. That's fine. It's also his second year. And
yeah. Garrett Bowles has we've seen a lot of Garrett Bowles throughout the year. It's funny that he's still their left tackle after all these years.
You know who likes seeing Garrett Bowles on that roster and on that spot? Chris Jones.
Yeah,
Chris. He used to pick that dude out of the lineup and just beat him to.
Yeah, so they still got him. They got Ben Powers, who was a second. No, he's been there.
6-year guy out of Oklahoma, but I don't think he's been in Denver the whole time.
No, I don't.
Mike McGlinchey is now the right tackle. That would be former Notre Dame lineman, former San Francisco 49er, Mike McGlinchey. Alex Forsythe is their center.
Yep. 7th round pick last year. So
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's just not a lot of like huge names that you're, I think, really relying on. I don't think the pass protection has been there super well for this year. Bo Nix has 15 sacks on the year. So
I'll be honest. I have a feeling Spags is going to say, "Hey Trent, Cortland's yours. Everybody else is whatever, but you have Sutton, and we're gonna put 7 or 8 in the box." Or bring it from every direction and see what this kid thinks he can do. Because
I like that.
They don't have the line to do this with. They don't. This is not a team. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball real well, especially not against this run defense in the way when this run defense decides. I mean, when running backs are the ones that are running the ball, they don't give up yards. So will Bo Nix probably make a couple of run around, crazy, scramble, stupid plays where something goofy happens? Probably.
Maybe.
He did. He had one last week where he went back like 30 yards and then ran back 28 yards and managed to get like a -1 out of it. But still
he got like one. He got like back to the goal line. It's like, oh my gosh. And it's like,
So
I don't know.
There will be some of that, I think, and there will be some frustration with how did they not get him on the ground more? And it's because we talked about it. He's an underrated athlete when it comes to his feet and his legs. But this offense, I don't know how this team has 5 wins other than the fact that I read you some of the teams they played.
I know they played bad teams, but it is surprising that they've even managed 5 wins. I mean, shout out to them.
They're playing above their water, I would think, at this point. They're also still in 3rd in this division somehow because they're behind the Chargers because they lost to them head to head.
Right, so they have one matchup loss.
And they also have an extra game in the loss column because the Chargers and the Chiefs have had their bye and the Raiders and the Broncos have not. So, I don't know, man. This team.
They have the benefit of, Sean Payton, he's not a bad coach. Obviously, he's a pretty good coach. I think he's maybe a tad overrated of a coach, but he's still not a bad coach. So at least you don't have like blatant, like bad clock management stuff and stuff like that they have to kind of worry about, which probably helps him a little bit. He's not incompetent.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. He's not.
I'm not sold on how great Sean Payton is. I
think he's heavily overrated as well.
I think Drew Brees did a lot of things to help make that a lot better for the Saints. They also lived a lot off of that Super Bowl after the hurricane, which was devastating to the city, but also, and that really mattered a lot for the Saints and that whole area. But at the same time, like, what else did he do with that same
afterwards?
There wasn't a lot to it.
Ever since then, really not much. Yeah.
And then Bountygate and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And then especially when Breeze was gone, he tried to play Taysom Hill. We can talk about
there's a legit year that he had Taysom Hill as their starting quarterback.
There may be a revisit of what Sean Payton is as a coach at some point here in the next couple of years. If this Broncos organization does not ascend, if Bo Nix is a problem and not a solution, if they don't get better pretty quickly, then I don't know what that narrative is going to be when it comes to Sean.
Yeah.
For now, I will say he's solid-ish, but I don't know that I would go great.
Yeah, I know that he is very experienced, though, which is something that at least kind of works in his favor. And he's got a lot of experience on his staff. Vance Joseph. They have Joe Lombardi as their offensive coordinator, who, once again, familiar face, who was the Chargers offensive coordinator in 21 and 22. So
I swear to God, did these AFC West teams just trade coaches back and forth?
Yeah, they just recycle a bunch of coaches all around. It's like, hey, maybe you might need some new thoughts, because these guys weren't.
Whatever you're doing is not working.
Then, so you're gonna come back and have them try to beat Chiefs now? I don't.
Vance is a much better defensive coordinator than he ever was as a head coach.
Yeah,
not even close.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know that matters.
No.
Not when Andy has shown you for like almost a decade that he has no problem putting hands on those defenses and making them look bad at several points. And Justin Simmons plays for the Falcons now, so who's getting that Patrick pick that they always got with Justin Simmons?
Is the one that's usually always happened. Yeah, so that's a big piece. Yeah, they're overall their whole team identity right now is really in kind of a transition phase. They're getting a lot younger. They're trying to get new faces in, and it's just it's not an immediate thing that's going to be very effective, especially in this game. Maybe down the line, maybe next year, maybe the year after that, they have something more put together. But
I don't see it. I don't understand it. The other problem that they're going to have is for a Chiefs team that's been pretty beat up most of the year, and we were a little worried on Wednesday when we saw the initial injury report.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to have gotten a lot healthier.
Yeah. The injury report looks much more optimistic for the Chiefs. Quickly can go through it for the Chiefs. Juju's already been ruled out with that hamstring. That's probably going to be a.
Can I make a quick, maybe a hot take on that? Yeah. I don't think we see him again until January at the earliest, maybe late December when in games that don't matter. Just to get
that would be kind of surprising. Yeah,
I don't. What do they need him for?
I mean,
what?
You're right, actually. Now
what do they? Hey, man, we're going to need you in the postseason. We probably don't need you until then.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
why don't you hang out?
I guess he takes some reps off of Justin Watson.
Reps,
makes it so you don't have to use, Justin Ross in like the 4 snaps that he got. But other than that, you're right. I mean, yeah, they're definitely not rushing him back. That should be sure. I'm sure after that initial re-injury of that hamstring, they're like, all right, we're not bothering.
Hey, just chill out.
We're locking you down. We're making sure you're fully healed before we're even gonna consider you putting you back.
Yeah,
here.
I just don't know what they
like. That thinking.
If McCole or if somebody or Justin, God forbid, somebody else goes down, that might change. But for now,
they're probably fine missing him a couple more games. Yeah, they really don't necessarily need him. Yeah, especially
call me when Buffalo's here. We'll see about maybe then.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
And then you may not see him again for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So he's out. That's already official. The only other guy who has a game status designation is Tershawn Wharton, who's questionable with that knee injury, which
he's a bruise.
Yeah, so I don't know if we touched on it, but yeah, there's this play where he and George kind of knocked knees together or something, collided with each other, and they were both limited on practice one day, and he's been limited, or he DNP'd a couple of days and then was limited. Yeah. But
George's almost caused a bruise to Tershawn's knee because George's injury designation is abdomen.
Yeah,
sir. Listen, Mr. Greek God, we need to work on your stone.
You got a washboard hitting you on the knee. Yeah, I'll bruise it a little bit. Yeah, so he's the only guy with a questionable designation, Tershawn Wharton. I would almost expect that he probably plays, but we'll see if maybe game day decision. But I'd probably
think he's going to play.
Unless everyone else
just dude, it's a bruise.
Right, yeah. I mean, put some icy hot on it.
Sorry, let me use the proper term: contusion.
Yeah. put some icy.
Yeah, you don't want to have him out there during the week slamming it into stuff for no freaking reason. But when Sunday rolls around, it's probably okay to go out there and deal with a bruise on your knee. Like, not fun, may not be great, but should be fine. The one that I'm most surprised about, I was surprised about it when it happened. I was almost positive he was done by the reaction, by the way he went directly to the locker room. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. All of that. I was worried McCole was out. I was worried that was a collarbone or whatever. The way
it
he
didn't
went,
look
where
good
he
when
got
he landed
tackled,
on his shoulder. Yeah.
I was like, ugh. Now, the fact that he came back into the game, big. The fact that he was at the podium on Wednesday, even more important.
Huge.
I think it was a stinger is what it ended up being, it looks like and sounds like. They have him listed as a shoulder and knee.
Shoulder and knee. Well, he'd already been.
The shoulder.
I was about to say, because I think he was on the injury report.
He'd had the knee injury stuff or whatever, but I think
that's been that lingering thing that
the shoulder was what
the shoulder was what. Yeah, so it was a good sign that he came back and, like you said, talking the press conference and all that. He'll be good.
Also, nobody needs to talk about Kareem being on the injury report. He's going to be on it every week because he's going to get extra treatment because they're literally running him until his wheels fall off at this point. I think.
Yeah, that's a recurring one. Big names, two big names actually on the injury report that are both full goes for this game all week. Mike Dana was a full participant in all the weeks or all the days. He's missed like the past 3 or 4 games with that pectoral injury. He should be good to go on the game, so that's would be really good to get Mike back out there. He's obviously a really good rotational piece, good against the run, all that stuff. And then Najee Johnson as well, returning. He was a full participant all week
from the concussion.
With that concussion that he missed last game with. So that's a really good sign that he's back. So those are like the two biggest. And
then the other guy, the one we talked about earlier, where we all had a near panic attack during the Bucs game.
Yeah,
and Patrick was on there with his ankle.
Yeah, there was a video. I saw a video of, I think from Harold Kuntz of him walking around practice with a very heavily taped ankle. I'm sure it'll just Patrick's used to have a very heavily taped ankle at this point.
Get used to that the rest of the season would be my suggestion.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like pretty frequently he has that thing spatted up anyways nowadays. So it's
might as well.
Yeah, safe. Might as well. I mean, he's pretty comfortable with that at this point. So
if you're gonna keep having it tweaked and having it be a thing, which I've heard it discussed. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a yearly thing where he just kind of has an ankle that's that way for the rest of forever. He's had multiple little dings and nicks and issues to it.
His ankles,
different ankles, but it is what it is.
They're weak, but also they're not because they're Gumby. They're flexible and you can get it banged up a little bit, but you just throw a spat on there and you're good. He'll adapt to it. So those are pretty much the big things for the injury report. So the Chiefs are looking very healthy, relatively.
We're not listing the 9 guys on
for guys. For guys who are on the active roster still, we should say they're looking very healthy. So that's a very good sign overall. This Broncos game,
I want to be nervous about it. I want to be concerned. I want to tell you guys that it's going to be like a close.
I can't be. Yeah.
Which is exactly why we're going to be talking about how they won by 3 at the last second of this game.
I mean, it's a division matchup. These things happen when you play division opponents where they know you much better. They know how to test your buttons a little bit more.
I just don't know that this matters at this point.
I agree. I as much as convincing I can do, it really feels like this shouldn't be very close of a game. The score might end up being closer than what it really is, but as long as nothing catastrophic happens, and even honestly, if the Chiefs have a couple self-inflicted mistakes, I still don't think it's really close.
I mean, they should still be able to win even if they have some issues, but I would prefer them to go out and just handle it.
It would be nice to have another clean game with they had 1 turnover last week.
I didn't realize that Bo was their second leading rusher. That's
I was say he's
and their starting running back, their number 1 running back is their second leading receiver. So
it's a very interesting offense that they got running over there in Denver. And who knows, they might just break out a wild side of the playbook and really unleash some things. But
is it a problem when like 2 or 3 of your leading tacklers are in the secondary?
That's very interesting. Yeah, you'd hope it would be the linebackers, probably maybe some defensive. Yeah, if they're secondary tackling, that means
all 3, as a matter of fact.
safety in both corners.
If your safeties are getting a lot of tackles, that typically means that that guys are going
Their
a couple
3
of yards
leading
deep
tacklers
into
are Brandon Jones, Riley Moss, and Jaquan McMillan. All 3 of those guys played defensive back.
Interesting. Yeah, that's not the greatest of signs. What's up, Corey? The artist chief checking in with us as we get near to close this game or this preview out.
Preview, all of the above.
Game, everything. Yeah, this whole episode.
Should we touch the trade deadline real quick?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. That was the big thing. The Chiefs were.
Or should we do our score predictions and then touch the trade deadline?
Well, I guess we could mention. I think we've mentioned the trade deadline really quick because the Chiefs. Obviously we made a couple trades. We made a couple trades before the trade deadline official week. We got in there a little bit early with D-Hop and Uche, but the Chiefs were still rumored to get a couple other guys potentially. I think the rumors are they were trying to get a corner. They were trying to maybe get another wide receiver, see who was.
Oh, they were trying to get a corner.
That was confirmed. Yeah. They were big players for Saints corner Marshawn Lattimore, who was rumored for like 2 weeks, basically, that the Chiefs had interest in him. Maybe a little too much rumored interest. Maybe just a little bit of one of those situations where the Chiefs checked in. The Saints said, "Oh, the Chiefs are interested. Let's tell everybody the Chiefs are interested."
75 times to 5 different insiders.
Let's make sure all the insiders report that the Chiefs are interested. And so, hey, any other teams, if you want them, you got to outbid the Chiefs. Something like that. Which they did. I'll tell you what, the Washington
Hats
Commanders.
Off to Mickey Loomis. That's the first time in like 5 years that I can say the Saints made a smart front office decision.
Yeah, that was actually a good one. Yeah, so they trade Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders instead for. Do you know the full? It was like a third, a fourth,
third, fourth, and they sent a fifth for a sixth. So it was essentially a premium pick, a 4th round pick, and a pick swap today from back on day 3.
Yeah, so pretty steep price.
I'm willing to say comfortably the Chiefs weren't going to be trading any more than a third. So I'm not really sure why the Washington Commanders decided to give up at least one extra pick.
Who were they bidding against? Themselves?
But I guess that's what you do when you don't have to worry about paying a quarterback because they've got a fresh rookie that's playing really well for them so far this year.
Yeah.
And Jaden Daniels is, I'm fairly certain, the runaway Rookie of the Year award at this point.
I think so, yeah. It's almost confirmed, yeah.
He's been good. Dan Campbell is Dan Quinn. Sorry.
A different Dan, yeah.
One eats kneecaps, one coaches defense. My apologies.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Quinn kind of similar traits.
Dan Quinn is a defensive head coach. He's a hard-nosed guy. We see what Dallas's team looks like without Dan Quinn on the defensive side of the ball.
Over there. Jeez Louise.
So he's been really good. Marshawn Lattimore has a couple of years left on his deal, if I understand correctly, with the way that Washington made that trade. So they'll get to have him and maybe look at extending him once they get him.
He's also a guy that was banged up for the past few weeks.
I don't know how much of that isn't more like the Devontae Adams banged up, where it was like, yeah, I'm hurt. Oh, I'm healthy.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, we saw a little bit from D-Hop as well. Once guys get to a different location, some of those things kind of magically heal themselves.
Pulled out of the game by the Titans. I don't think D-Hop held himself out.
I think he had been on the injury.
He had, but that was from a camp injury, not from anything during the season.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae Adams had a hamstring pop up that then vanished when he landed in New York.
He just sat out for 2 weeks basically and said, "All right, I'm good."
There's some of that. I don't know how much of that was the case with Marshawn, but I would assume it's at least a little bit that way because he passed a physical. And
obviously they had to feel confident enough. They were like, let's just send him all the picks.
They sent a boatload of picks for that to not be the case.
Shout out to the Commanders who were trying to seize the moment. Hey. I saw a stat where last year at the trade deadline they were trading away 2 of their big stars, and now this year they're
Chase Young, remember,
and Montez Sweat. They traded both of them away at the trade deadline last year and used those picks to compound, get Jaden Daniels, and secure the future. So good on them for at least turn that around.
We had to deal with Chase Young in the Super Bowl because of that.
Yep, we sure did. Yeah, we sure did.
The other thing in comment on the cornerback market, none of the other corners moved, at all. Ronald Darby is still a Jaguar. Greg Newsome is still a Brown. None of the rumored names went anywhere.
Got moved, yeah.
So if they're not available, you can't trade for them.
Can't get them. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And I'm assuming that might have been the reason that Washington went ahead and kicked the extra collateral to the Saints to make sure they got him, because none of the other corners were really available, it sounds like.
Probably.
And
then also on the flip side, I believe there's a report that Chiefs, I think they felt pretty comfortable after the Bucs game with Josh Williams and a couple of other options that they have. Yeah, Charles was the one to report that, I believe. And I feel like they felt pretty good about their situation. Obviously, they felt really good about their cornerback room and defensive backs going into the season. And then you have a couple injuries, but some other guys have stepped up now. So I think they're pretty. Maybe you see a free agent addition or something like that of a guy who's still out there. But I think for most part, I think the Chiefs are pretty set with their cornerbacks.
The name that keeps getting brought up, I will just leave it as you
one?
can. Well, not even washed. You can Google why I don't think he'll ever be a Chief. Former Dolphins corner. Not even going to go down the name list, but you can Google it. I don't know that he let teams know that he was in football shape, and it's like, yeah, that's great. That has nothing to do with why I don't think you'll be on the roster, but good for you.
So other than that, not a lot of really names.
And nothing else was available. And then on the other side, you're not they like I just said about Juju. What are you trading for a receiver for at this point?
Yeah, exactly. That's
maybe a tight end, but at that point, why?
Hey, I guess Peyton Hendershot though. Dave Tobe spoke pretty highly about him today.
Yes.
They elevated him for the game, so he had a good little showing. So they still got some tight ends that they can roll with.
He plays special teams. He's a special teams ace, according to Dave Tobe, basically. He talked to whoever had him in Dallas, I think it was, that was like, yeah, I love him. You got my guy. Yay.
Yeah.
So, he did that. He made his one catch just fine, and actually made a guy miss, kind of. So, good there. For a team that's extremely beat up and had injuries a lot of the different places on the offensive side of the ball, Brett Veach has done a ridiculous job at fixing that rapidly through guys that nobody had on the radar being on this team, unless you're talking like it was 2 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a very unique season for the Chiefs so far, but
they won the deadline and they did nothing on deadline day. That's where I'm at with that.
They very clearly, I think everyone in the NFL can agree.
Who else did somebody add that's had a bigger impact and gonna have a bigger impact than D-Hop?
D-Hop, yeah.
I'm not even gonna mention Joshua Uche yet.
Oh yeah, which had a couple good third down looks in this Bucs game and whatnot. It
will only improve as he gets more comfortable in the system.
But yeah, D-Hop, that's the winning move right there. That's like chess. That's checkmate right there. That's one of those things. So. With that, let's knock out some score predictions for this Broncos game real quick, and we'll send you guys on with the rest of your night. Appreciate you all for tuning in and watching us this evening and joining us for a little Friday night live that we've been doing. We're going to keep on trying to do these every Friday.
We'll also try to put out some notice and a reminder ahead of time in the future for when we're going to be live. It was a little play it by ear fluid on what time exactly we were going to get rolling tonight. So that's why we didn't do that.
But working on that. But yeah, Kyle, you want to go first with the score prediction?
I think it's like 31-13.
Okay. Yeah.
I just rookie quarterback Spagnuolo, not a lot of weapons, not a lot of options, questionable offensive line. Again, not even questionable, just a bad matchup for this going against this defensive line.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a healthy defensive line with Mike Dana fully backed, Turk playing. The only guy you're really missing is Charles at that point, who hasn't been there all year. So,
can't wait to get him back.
That's going to be fun too. Yeah. But, at this point in time, it's a division game. It's a noon game. They don't get to play noon games at home very often anymore. They don't get to play noon games hardly at all anymore, but definitely not at home. I don't know, man.
What's the weather going to be like? Ain't got a weather report?
I can give you a quick check.
Let me see. I'll look up real quick. Looks like let's say it's going to be 63.
Sunny and 60.
So nothing crazy. Not torrential downpours at least. So that's something.
I don't think it's going to be super windy either.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not bad.
5 to 10 mile an hour winds. No, it's not. It's going to be a pretty nice You guys, it should probably be a very full Arrowhead for a November Sunday noon game being
should be
60 and sunny with no wind. Like that's ideal, kids.
That's pretty good. Yeah, maybe a little chilly, but that's ideal.
Find a game. No, Garrett, you are a lizard. We get it, Mr. Arizona. That's not chilly. God.
That's sneaking in there.
It's chilly if you live in the freaking desert. It's not chilly if you live where normal people live.
Maybe just a little chilly.
Like I said, 31-13, and that it may not be 13 until like guys aren't playing. I don't know.
I think that's
if they don't turn the ball over. If the Chiefs' offense does not turn the ball over, I just don't know what Denver's gonna do. Yeah,
it's running out of options for what they possibly could do. You're right. I'm looking my score prediction. I'm thinking around the ballpark of like 21-10. You know, like just they're gonna cover the spread. I think the spread's 7.5. So I think they'll cover the spread.
What? It keeps falling?
It might have been. I know
it was at 9.5 at one point. Then I saw it at 8.5.
I saw it change. Down to 8.5. I haven't checked again. The last time I saw it, I think it was at 7.5 though. You might have to double check that. Either way, this is covering the spread if it's 8 or 9.5, 21-10. I just don't think the Broncos.
It's 7.5 on ESPN Bet. That's crazy.
That's what I thought. I just, like I said, don't really think the Broncos. I just don't see what path they can do to have any success really. The Chiefs, I think there's a chance that we get a big offensive performance, and we always like to kind of hope for it. But there's almost just as good of a chance that they just kind of float through it and score a couple touchdowns, have a nice, comfortable lead for most of the game, and just, call it a day and don't do anything super crazy. But there's also a chance that this is like a pretty lopsided game at the end. But I'm going to be a little conservative and say 21-10. And knowing the Chiefs, they'll probably be even closer than that. But still, I think we're getting a dub.
The other part is Travis is like 78 yards or 77 yards from passing Antonio Gates on the all-time yardage list. In like 60-something less games or some crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
70-something less games. If I were to take a prop on Sunday that I was fairly confident in hitting, it would be Kelsey 80-plus yards. We talked about I don't know who they're going to cover him with already. Yeah. They have not a ton of options as far as great options at covering him is concerned. There's no chance on earth that Patrick and the Chiefs don't know that Travis is close to another record, passing somebody else on a list.
Yeah, probably.
Milestone, because I think that would move him into second or third all time.
I believe so. Yeah,
and so I'm not gambling advice, just a suggestion. Gamble at your own risk. That's how gambling works. There's always risk involved. I like Travis 80-plus yards in this game. I also would not be surprised to see Kareem Hunt hammer out another 20-plus attempts on the ground at least. I don't know what his attempt number is at, but that would be one I would take a peek at.
Yeah, if Travis gets that, he passes Antonio Gates, he'd just be behind Jason Witten and Tony Gonzalez. So
yeah, and again, like 60 or 70 less games.
Yeah, let's say it's a lot less games. Yeah, 30 less games than Antonio Gates has played, and then Jason Witten has so many more games, 252 compared to Travis's 160. So, yeah, safe to say if he keeps on going for another couple years, he's crushing those numbers.
Thanks to Charles Goldman again, Kelsey has averaged 77.5 yards a game against Denver in his career.
Yeah, he is typically a Broncos killer. That is a theme.
I like the options of Travis at around 80 or more on Sunday.
I also like that, yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to kind of wrap with, on my end, I don't really have anything else after this, Garrett. I will let you take us out afterwards. The Clyde Edwards-Helaire interview on the pivot with Ryan Clark and Channing and those guys. I'm not going to talk about the content of it. I will say it like this. If you have not watched it, watch it and watch every second of it because it's worth every second. That was an unbelievably vulnerable, poignant, well-spoken, well-said interview. and you never know what these guys are going through. And they are humans just like the rest of us. And I think we forget that sometimes because we put them on a different level. In a lot of scenarios, they end up on pedestals and on with higher expectations and expectations on the field and expectations off the field. It was an incredibly well done interview, and so impressive and just respect garnering more than I already had for Clyde. To see him talk about everything that has gone on and that he has dealt with and what all that has meant, it was an insanely good interview. Had my emotions running rather high before this podcast started. So check that out, watch that, get a perspective on some of those things. And then the other thing is enjoy what we're watching, because now we're going to get more and more of the narrative thing with the undefeated season and the every team is going to be able to beat this team, and there could have been, should have been, would have been the Ravens, like you guys we're familiar now. There's no more we're not the villain anymore. There's no more question about who's the villain. You're the big bad wolf. Fitting, seeing as how Casey Wolf's the mascot. Embrace it, enjoy it.
Yep.
Go watch that pivot interview after you're done watching us.
Shout out Clyde for sure.
And enjoy this weekend and enjoy this ride, because man, is it fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. This is definitely, we talk about it every week, and I feel like we're one of the biggest proponents of this, where it's like this is just the golden era of Chiefs football. We always say it, but it's never going to get old saying. I think we just have to remind people all the time that this is the golden era, and to just be more appreciative of stuff and just enjoy it a little bit more. Don't be so negative about all the little tiny things that go wrong, because ultimately this is just, we're witnessing generational stuff here. This is literally history that we're
multiple
witnessing.
Players.
Yeah, like players, team, everything. Like this is just the entire, like this is just the entire era of NFL right now. It's just like we're gonna talk about, future generations are gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna talk to them about how great this era was. So it's good time. It's definitely a good time. So enjoy it. Appreciate you all for tuning in and rocking with us tonight.
That also includes Brett Veach.
Yep. Shout out Brett Veach. Shout out everybody. Shout out you guys. Shout out everyone. And yeah, that's everything we've got for you tonight. It was a good one. We went for like an hour and a half.
A little long, but that was two episodes, so call it 45 minutes apiece, and it was short.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's I'd say it's a pretty good night. I think it was a pretty good episode. So with that, that's all we've got for you. Appreciate you once again tuning in and listening. Follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check us out on YouTube. Kingdom Says over there. That's a big place that we want to garner a lot of attention to, is our YouTube. If you haven't liked or subscribed, mostly subscribed, please appreciate you if you would go over and subscribe to our YouTube. And of course, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts at, we will be on there as well. And we will see you guys next week to talk about the Broncos and whatever else crazy stuff that happens in the league, and just have an overall good time with Chiefs Kingdom. So,
what do you know? Things that happened in the league, and yet we weren't the subject of crazy bad officiating on a primetime game.
Man, who would have thought that the officiating might just actually suck? That's I think people are realizing that the officiating.
Nobody's been saying that for like 5 years.
With that being said, though, everyone be sure to send in your cash donations to the refs.
Don't forget your payments.
Don't forget the payments. Make sure those due at the first of every week. So we got to remember that, because that is good. And yeah, that's all. That's everything. Appreciate you guys. We will see you guys on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.